At the height of a career that most people would have called successful, I was moving faster than I had ever moved and arriving nowhere I wanted to be. Not slower arrival, the wrong destination entirely. Every project completed, every result delivered, every professional obligation met, and the gap between where all that activity was taking me and where I actually needed to go was widening, not closing. I was extremely efficient. I was pointed in the wrong direction. And the efficiency was the problem, because efficiency in the wrong direction is not progress. It is a faster way to get lost. What I want to give you for 2026 is not a list of habits to add. It is something more specific than that. A sequence of honest questions that, if you work through them in order, will show you the actual gap, the distance between where the daily actions you already do are taking you and where you need to go. Most men skip this and go straight to the plan. The plan fails because it was built without reading the information that the last year produced. I am going to give you 6 things. Not 6 things to do immediately, 6 things to understand, in order each of which changes how the next one works. The sequence matters. You cannot build identity without the audit. You cannot subtract without knowing what is load-bearing. You cannot find the single constraint without honesty about what the body and the daily practice are actually producing. The order is the point. Come back to this at the beginning of the year and again in the middle when the plan has gone sideways. That is when it matters most. The first thing. Before you plan 2026, read 2025, honestly. The last year is not behind you. It is the most detailed piece of information you have about what your daily actions actually produce when compounded over time. It is a report. Most men do not read it. They file it under experience, extract a few lessons, and move immediately to what they are going to do differently. The moving immediately is the mistake. The report contains everything. Here is what an honest reading looks like. Not the highlights and the failures. Every man knows those. The patterns, the behaviors that showed up repeatedly. The choices you made in the ordinary moments when nothing important seemed to be happening and nobody was watching. The specific ways you spent the hours that were genuinely yours to direct. Those hours are the building material of the life. What did you build with them? Not what you intended to build. What you actually built. When I did this for the first time, not a casual reflection, a real reading, I found something I had been not looking at. The hours I had been calling work were not all work. A significant portion of them were a sophisticated form of delay. I was producing, I was active, I was visibly occupied, and a substantial fraction of that activity was motion in the direction of outcomes that I had not chosen, toward destinations that had been handed to me rather than selected. I was busy in other people's directions. Calling it my career, the audit is not comfortable. That is why most men skip it. What it produces, if you do it honestly, is clarity about the gap between what you said mattered and what your hours actually built. That clarity is the foundation of anything real. Think about what it would mean to have spent an entire year moving in a direction that was not quite yours. Not the wrong direction entirely. There are real results, real relationships, real things built, but slightly off. The compound effect of slightly off run for a full year across every significant decision is a destination that is further from where you are supposed to be than where you started. You moved, you worked hard, you delivered, and the gap widened. Most men have had this experience. Most do not name it as a direction problem. They name it as a pace problem, or an effort problem, or a discipline problem. And they build the next year's plan on the same compass heading, with more effort applied. A plan built on the wrong direction, executed with more effort, produces a faster version of the same result. Speed is not the variable, direction is. You can optimize the wrong life very efficiently. Before you write a single goal for 2026, before you open a new document, before you set a timer, before you find the new framework, spend 1 hour with the last year. Write down the 5 ways you spent time that genuinely moved you toward what matters most to you. Then write down the 5 ways you spent time that did not. The second list is where the real work starts, and it is almost always longer than the first. The second thing, the first question most men ask at the start of a new year is wrong. They ask, what should I add? More discipline, more habits, more structure, more early mornings, more productivity. The answer is not addition. The answer almost always is subtraction. A life full of the wrong things has no room for the right ones. This is not a metaphor. It is a practical problem of space and energy. Every commitment you carry costs something. Attention, time, the specific portion of your capacity that it occupies. A man running 20 commitments at partial capacity never discovers what he is capable of running at full capacity. He is always distributed, always diluted. The feeling that things should be moving faster but are not, that low-grade frustration most men normalize, is usually the feeling of a man who has too much of the wrong things, rather than too little of the right. Once, there was a man I knew named Robert. He had been adding to his life for years, with real intention, the right books, the right practices, the right professional development, the right routines. His effort was genuine, his discipline was real, and he was barely moving. He talked to me once about the frustration of doing everything correctly and not feeling the change. I asked him what he was carrying, that he had not chosen what was in his life by default, by drift, by accumulated obligation rather than deliberate decision. He listed 3 things. One of them, when he looked at it honestly, was taking more from him than everything else combined. Not dramatically, quietly. In the daily cost of energy and attention that it extracted, he removed it. Not easily. It had real relationships and real obligations attached to it. It took months to do properly. And he told me afterward that the months of removal were harder than all the years of addition had been. Because addition feels like building. Removal feels like loss, even when what you are removing was costing more than it was producing. But within a year of the removal, the other things he had been adding for years began to move. Not because he had added more, because the one thing that had been taking the energy those other things needed was gone. The energy did not go somewhere new. It went to the things that had been waiting for it the whole time. Removal is not failure. Removal is the clearing that makes the planting possible. And the clearing almost always looks from inside the process exactly like the destruction of something real. That is what makes it hard. That is what makes most men leave the thing in the life, past the point when the honest answer is that it has to go. The most important question to ask at the start of 2026 is not, what should I add? It is, what has to go? The answer is usually something you already know. You have known for a while. It is something you have been keeping in the life past its useful point, a commitment, a relationship, a habit, a version of yourself that no longer fits what you are building. Write it down. Name it specifically. Because a thing that is not named cannot be removed. It can only be avoided. What is taking more from you than it is giving back? Write that down before you write anything else. Listen to this again when the year starts losing momentum. The second time through, you will identify the specific thing you skipped past the first time. The third thing. Behavior does not change without identity. This is the mechanism behind every resolution that fails. Most transformation attempts try to change what a man does without changing who he believes he is. The new behavior runs on willpower for a while, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. Then the effort drops, the old gravity pulls, and the behavior returns to whatever the identity supports. Not because the man is weak, because the behavior was never connected to anything structural. It was connected to intention, which is real but fragile, rather than to identity, which is the foundation everything else runs on. You do not rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. The question is not what you want to do. The question is who you have decided you are. When I was making films before the Passion of the Christ, I was making decisions from the identity of a man who needed studio approval to proceed. Not consciously, I would not have described myself that way, but the decisions I made in ordinary moments reflected it. I checked, I managed, I shaped the work toward what was acceptable. That identity produced a specific kind of output. Technically skilled, professionally competent, personally hollow. The passion was different not because I decided to make a different kind of film. It was different because by the time I made it, I had become a different kind of filmmaker. The identity had shifted. I was no longer a man who needed the studio to tell me whether the project was valid. I was a man who had already decided that decision was not a goal or a resolution. It was a piece of the structure of who I was by that point. The shift did not happen in a day. It happened through a series of smaller moments, decisions made in private, in the direction of the man I was becoming before the big visible decision was required. Each small decision in the right direction made the next one slightly easier and the old identity slightly less load-bearing. By the time the moment came to put up my own money and proceed without permission, it was not actually a dramatic decision. It was a natural extension of who I had already been becoming. The drama was external. The internal reality was, of course, this is what this kind of man does. That is how identity change actually works. Not through a single declaration. Through the accumulated weight of small daily decisions made in alignment with the new identity, continued past the point of doubt, until the new identity is more real than the old one. The behavior, the specific daily actions that put the film together without institutional support, followed from the identity without requiring willpower. Willpower fights the identity. Courage acts from it. The goal is to build the identity until the courage feels like the natural thing rather than the hard thing. Here is the exercise. Take a piece of paper. At the top, write the name of the man you are trying to become in 2026. Not a list of what he does, who he is, 3 sentences maximum. What does he believe about himself that drives everything else? What does he refuse? What does he build toward? Under that, write the one daily action that this man does that you currently do not. Not the whole list. The one that, if you did it daily, would be most incompatible with the identity you are leaving behind. That action is the first day's work. Not because the first day changes anything measurable. Because the first day begins the compounding. The daily action that matches the identity you are building does not transform you in a week or a month. It transforms you over the course of a year in the specific way that interest compounds invisibly at first, then unmistakably. A man who cannot feel his daily action working in the first month abandons it. A man who understands compounding continues regardless of what he can feel, because he knows the visible result is downstream of the invisible accumulation. The thing that changes a life is not a dramatic gesture or a single decision. It is a small daily action done in alignment with a clear identity, continued past the point where most men stop until the accumulation becomes the man. The fourth thing. The daily practice that holds everything else together. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world. His specific fear was not losing power. It was becoming a man who performed his own life, who went through the motions of being himself without actually being present inside the motions, who was emperor by position and absent by habit, who had drifted through the accumulated gravity of small defaults into a version of himself that was less than what he was capable of. He wrote every night to prevent this, not for publication for himself, in the dark, when no performance was required. He asked one question at the end of every day: was the man I claimed to be today the man who actually showed up. Not the impressive answer, the true one. That practice, one honest question at the end of the day, answered without performance, is the daily action that holds every other daily action accountable. Without it, a man has no reliable way to know whether he is drifting. The drift is invisible from the inside. You cannot feel yourself becoming slightly less than you were yesterday. But it is happening constantly in both directions, toward the man you are becoming or away from him. The daily question is what makes the direction visible. The gap between who you perform and who you actually are widens without daily attention. Most men let it widen for a year, then notice it at a moment of crisis and call the crisis the problem. The crisis is just the moment the gap became visible. The gap was there the whole time. Here is what the practice looks like. At the end of each day, not in a journal necessarily, not for any audience, ask yourself one question. Did the man who showed up today move toward the person I wrote at the top of that paper? Or away from him? Not a long answer, a single honest word, yes or no. If yes, register it and continue. If no, name specifically what happened and what was chosen instead. 2 sentences. Done. That practice, run daily without missing, shows you the pattern of your life more accurately than any planning system, because planning tells you where you intend to go. The daily question tells you where you are actually going. The specific power of it is not in the days it goes well, it is in the days it does not. A man who can look at a no honestly, who can say specifically what happened and what was chosen instead, has information that no planning document can produce. He can see the exact place where the gap opened. He can see the precise choice that widened it. And he can make a different choice the next day, not from abstract intention, but from specific knowledge of what the last day cost. The gap does not stay the same size. It is either closing or opening every single day in both directions by the accumulated weight of small choices. Most men go months without checking the direction of movement. By the time they check, the gap has moved significantly, and the return requires substantial effort. The daily check costs 2 minutes. The return from a year of unchecked drift can cost a year. That is why Marcus wrote every night, not because it was enjoyable, because the cost of not writing was a year he could not get back. Run this back at the end of any week where the direction feels unclear. That is when the witness practice described here matters most. You already know the areas where the gap is widest. The places where the version of yourself you perform and the version that actually shows up have separated the most. You do not need the question to find the gap. You need the question to keep looking at it honestly every day so it does not get covered by the ordinary motion of a life that is moving but not necessarily in the direction you decided. That is the most important daily action. Not the early morning, not the exercise, not the cold water. Those are good. This is the one that makes them mean something. The 5th thing, the single constraint. Every man has one thing, one specific thing that if removed or resolved would unlock more of the rest of his life than any other single change. It is not a list, it is one thing. And most men never find it because finding it requires the kind of honesty that is more uncomfortable to produce than the alternatives. The alternative is to work on everything at once. Make incremental progress across multiple areas. Feel the motion of a life that is improving in many directions by small amounts. This is not wrong, but it is not transformation. It is maintenance with a positive slope. The transformation lives on the other side of the single constraint, and working on everything at once is often the most effective way to avoid confronting it directly. What is the one thing? It is different for every man. For some, it is a relationship that has been costing more than it produces for years. For others, it is the identity they described at the top of the page, the specific story about themselves that they have been not willing to let go. For others, it is a physical reality. The body is the compromised instrument through which everything else runs, and until it is addressed, every other effort is diminished. Here is the diagnostic. Think about the areas of your life where you have been making consistent effort without consistent progress. Not one bad month, a persistent pattern. The same place where things stall or reverse despite real work. That pattern is almost always downstream of the single constraint. The constraint is upstream. The effects are where you can see them. But working on the effects while the constraint is intact is like repainting the same wall while the foundation continues to crack. The paintwork is real. The paintwork is not the problem. The constraint is usually something that produces short-term comfort at the expense of long-term movement. It feels like a reasonable thing to keep. It has arguments for its continuation. It is not obviously destructive. If it were, most men would have removed it already. It is subtly expensive, costly in a way that distributes across the whole life rather than concentrating in one visible place. This is why it is hard to see. It is not in one place. It is everywhere, quietly. I found mine the day a doctor sat down across from me very carefully after looking at a brain scan and said words I had not expected to hear. The scan showed damage that was, in his assessment, the worst case he had seen in practice. Years of rugby, a serious fight in my 20s, and years of heavy drinking. Every decision I had made in that period, every choice, every relationship, every piece of work, had been made through an instrument running at significantly below capacity. I had been optimizing the schedule while the machine itself was degraded. The single constraint was not my decisions. It was the thing making the decisions. 40 hyperbaric sessions, fish oil and vitamin B complex daily without exception, a real commitment to sleep. Within a year, I was thinking in ways I had not thought in a long time, not because I had made better decisions, because the instrument making the decisions had been repaired. What is your single constraint? Not the things you need to improve. The one specific thing that, if addressed, would change the quality of everything downstream. Most men know what it is. They have known for a while. The reason they have not addressed it is not that they lack the information. It is that addressing it requires a level of commitment that changes something else, something comfortable that they have not been willing to change. My father Hutton understood constraints. He came back from Guadalcanal having been tested at a level most men are not tested, and he came back with a clarity about what mattered and what did not that I have never seen replicated in men who have not been through something of that scale. He was not complicated about his life. He had removed, through the particular violence of genuine crisis, everything that was not load-bearing. What remained was simple and strong. The clarity was not a philosophy. It was the result of having had everything non-essential stripped by necessity. I watched him operate in ordinary life for years. He did not manage complexity. He did not negotiate with things that were not aligned with what he was building. He had a specific relationship with his own time and attention that came from having been in a situation where time and attention were literally the only resources available, where everything else had been removed by the circumstances of the island. He carried that economy back, not as a technique, as the only way of being that felt honest after what he had been through. Most men do not get that stripping by necessity. They have to choose it. And the choosing requires something. Crisis removes automatically the willingness to let go of what is comfortable in favor of what is right. Crisis removes the option of comfortable. Choice does not remove it. Choice requires you to override it deliberately. That is the specific difficulty of the single constraint. The constraint is comfortable to keep. Removing it is not. Most transformation advice never asks for this because it is harder than adding habits and less photogenic than building routines. But it is the thing that unlocks the rest. Find yours. Name it. Address it. Not in a planning document. In an actual decision you make today. Find your constraint. Name it specifically. Then address it not in a planning document, in an actual decision you make today. Every choice you make today is a gift or a debt to the man you will be at the end of 2026. Not dramatically, the gift and the debt are both small on any single day, but they compound. The small choices compound into the man over time, with or without your attention. The question is whether the compounding is deliberate. Most people will take some of this and feel the truth of it and then continue in the current direction with minor adjustments. That is fine. That is how it always goes. But some of you are already at the point where minor adjustments are not honest. The direction needs to change. The constraint needs to be named and addressed. The identity needs to be built before the behavior can hold. For those of you, the work does not begin when you have the perfect plan. It begins with one honest hour, the audit, the one thing that has to go. The name of the man you are becoming written at the top of a piece of paper. Then the one daily action that man does that you do not yet do. Then the daily question run every evening without missing. That sequence, audit, subtract, identify, act, witness, does not require a new year to begin. It requires a decision. The decision can be made today, right now, before this ends. The first step is the 1 hour, the audit of the last year. 1 hour of honest reading of what the last year actually produced. Not the version you would tell someone else, the version you tell yourself when nothing else is in the room. Here is the specific promise. A man who does that 1 hour honestly and then follows the sequence that comes from what it shows him will be somewhere genuinely different at the end of 2026 than where he is now. Not because the sequence is magic, because honest direction combined with daily action that compounds over the course of a full year is not subtle. It is visible, it is felt. It is the man himself changed, looking back at the beginning of the year and recognizing the distance he has traveled. The man you are performing and the man you actually are can become the same man. Not by effort alone, by direction, by subtraction, by building the identity first and letting the behavior follow, by the daily question run honestly, by finding and addressing the one constraint that is blocking the rest, one day at a time, starting today. Not because that is a comforting thing to say, because there is no other unit of transformation. There is only today's action, compounding into the man you are becoming. Put this on every morning in January until the direction is settled. Then come back to it in the middle of the year when the drift is started again, because it will start again. That is not failure. That is the nature of daily work. The practice is not the absence of drift. It is the return every day to the direction you chose. The transformation is not an event. It is not a resolution. It is not a plan. It is the daily action pointed in the right direction, run without stopping. That is the whole thing. The direction first, then the daily action, every day, starting today.